What's going on, guys, and welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D, the place where we're attacking all things Dungeons & Dragons from both sides of the screen. As always, my name's Tom Quinn, resident Dungeon Master here at Modern Myth.
And I'm resident player character here at Modern Myth. Hey, Tom.
Do you have a name?
Did I not say my name?
I think you just said, I'm resident player character.
I don't need a name.
All right, resident, what you got?
Josh Winans. Anyway, so for today's conversation, this is actually something I kind of, it's a little personal, so I'm going to open up a little bit.
It is Tuesday.
But I kind of recently, well, I won't say I'm completely out of it. Recently, kind of went through a phase. I went through a phase. Now I won't say it was my emo phase, but it was a phase where, as a player character, I was kind of just like meh, just wasn't jiving, wasn't super like excited. Just lost a lot of the fire, the passion.
It is Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, as we've so graphically discovered. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to talk about character fatigue, maybe even game fatigue.
Oh, okay. Great. I think that will be very pertinent. And I think actually we may have some very legitimate insights in the space given some of what
I went through this.
he's been battling his demons. Before we get into that though.
Yes.
You guys, I just want to let you guys know that most of you are crushing it out there. I haven't looked at the stats recently, but roughly 50% of you watching this right now have already reached out and just finger of deathed that subscription button.
Oh, finger of
The
death,
other
cool.
half of you, this is probably like kind of semi-running in the background and you're playing Minecraft or, who knows what. But anyways, pause or alt-tab or whatever it is that you need to do to get back over to this screen, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the comments or drop them down below. You guys are crushing it. Keep it up. You want to support us directly, you can do so. Patreon.com/modmyth. Let's talk about character fatigue. And maybe we extend that out. We'll see where we're at.
We'll see where we go. That might be its own conversation.
Yeah. But I really do think that and I don't know that it was uttered so explicitly as we were kind of feeling our way through it. But I think it's safe to say that that's very likely the experience. Or again, I'm speaking as the third party,
right?
But I would say as a third party looking in, I think it's very reasonable to assume that was the experience. Talk a little bit. Lay that scenario out, and then let's talk a little bit about why.
Yeah,
like what's the remedy if such a thing exists?
Well, yeah, we've been playing. How long have we been playing as a Rovers? 2-3 years?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so we've been playing for 4 years. We made the commitment of making one.
I'm glad you had to ask if it was 2. Like if we were in a relationship, I'd like be blushing right now. Like, oh, he thinks we've only been together for 2 years.
No, you'd be like, he can't remember our anniversary.
I would definitely it depends. It depends what mood I'm in. But I could definitely hold your feet to the fire on it.
100%. So yeah, and we were like, we're going to run a 1 through 20. And in those 4 years, lots of things have happened.
Absolutely. A lot has changed in life.
A lot has changed in 4 years. To say I won't go into every single one of them, but major life changes. And what has happened is who I was and what I was striving for as a player character at the beginning of the campaign is not where I am anymore. And I kept trying to do that. And it was not being successful. And it was as most things do, when you're in a relationship or whatever, and it's you try to make it work, and you just tell yourself like, oh, if I just keep going, it'll get better. Well, what happens?
Tuesday.
It is. Oh my God!
I don't know how many of those are gonna run. But
wow, dude, it's getting worse and worse. But no, you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
No, it's fine. It's not hard to do. But yeah, it just got to a point where I was just like, I was just trying, and resentment. That's the word I was looking for. Resentment was really growing, and which was having a big negative outlook on D&D and especially we have such a unique table that we're friends first and D&D tabletop RPG players second. So it was it was getting to a point. Oh, it wasn't that bad where I was like, I don't want to hang out with them, but it's like I'd rather hang out with you than play D&D.
Right.
Which I don't think is a bad thing at all.
The activity, the hobby was ceasing to deliver what you had been getting out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. And I hope, as you're laying that out, as you've been framing this out, the reason that when we brought this topic up and said, hey, we should do an episode on this, I think that there are going to be a lot of people who have lived or are living in that exact space right now. I mean, it's a major commitment, and especially if it's your primary social group. You know, if it's like every hour you're investing playing at the tabletop is an hour you're not investing doing something else.
Right.
And if that experience at the tabletop isn't delivering any longer, you know, what it was for you before,
right? Whether
Whether that be through the game changing, whether that be through the player changing, whether that be through the DM changing, whatever it is.
Yeah, so many factors.
Yeah, but 100%. So I mean, I know when we were hitting on this, and I was going like, I bet this is actually a very to greater and lesser degrees. I'm sure there's people who drop out of the hobby altogether because they get so burnt out or fatigued, and people who are just kind of in that tolerating it phase right now. So I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I think that's pretty much it. And so in searching, like, let me see what you think about this, because I was trying to figure out why. And it's when, especially 5e, it's, you want the 1 through 20 experience, right? You want that to see your character start from 1 and to reach their ultimate pinnacle. Like that's
it. Well, I don't know that that's system specific, but I agree. I mean, I do. I love the long form.
Right.
You know, so so I certainly won't argue with you that I think that that's desirable, seeing that growth and change over time.
For just thinking about it through this, I don't know if that's good. It is such a long commitment that it's to one character. Now, and this might be also the fact that I have like 5 other characters. It's like, oh, I'll never play. Like, I don't want to play 5e next time. I want to do a different system. So I don't think I'll ever play some of these other characters I've had in mind.
Well, I imagine you could.
I'll transfer.
You could translate them pretty effectively into another. But I catch your point. And the only thing I would, I guess, caveat your sentiment is, I think the duration, that longevity, certainly, like as a DM, I have a hard time appreciating being a character for that expanse
4
of
years
time
so far. Yeah,
I think that's a difficult thing for anyone who's a forever DM or anyone who's just primarily a DM. It can be a difficult. It's something you can easily lose sight of. Is the commitment to that one character, that one state of mind, that one narrative trajectory.
And the characters change over time, which so not like Kel, my character, has changed significantly, and I'm now kind of changing him more because I'm recognizing that.
And I definitely want to get to or even round the episode out with talking a little bit about what's recently changed, because I think that's
let's continue to go down this current path before we divert. But so there's so many, and then what I think life happens, and especially in the long form cafe, I think that's one of the bigger things is like my priorities have changed radically.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Yeah, D&D has gone way down.
Right.
In my list of things that I think about.
Yeah.
Like lately it's I don't think about it until I show up at the table. And I don't spend time out of game really thinking about it much.
Yeah.
And
Save Tuesdays.
Except for this. And even like these conversations. Okay, I will say like split screen. You'll throw out a topic. I'm like, okay, I'll spend some good time making sure I'm coming down so I don't look like a complete jackass. But my character, I don't like. I don't think about. And what was hard was that was quite different than how I used to play. So what I was doing to myself was like, I was kind of feeling guilty in some regards. Like I'm not putting like I used to bring my A game. Like now it's just like, and I wasn't, and I was like, man, I like, who am I failing? Like I am not a narrative player, and for a while there, I kind of was, like I was really into it, and that was a clothes that was not comfortable for me to wear, and
swimming in jeans.
yeah, and when I like, I could put up with it, and I was trying to learn how to swim with jeans on, and I could do it, but then like there's a time where I was like, I'm tired of swimming in jeans.
You take them off, and you realize how good you are at swimming when you're not wearing jeans.
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah. No, and well, a few different things. I really like the way that you framed, because you were framing out, and it's again, so much of this. I mean, I don't want to say is lost on me, but it's certainly more impactful when I'm thinking about it from the singular character space of how how much really has changed in the time we've been running this campaign.
So much.
And how, kind of to your point, like you could set out knowing 100% that the character that you were running was exactly who you wanted them to be.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that Josh 4 years later, is once that same thing out of that character.
Right.
And to your point, like again, whether we could say it's broadly good or bad, it's certainly an aspect of a long form game. Is especially when you're talking about a really long form game. I mean, there are people who've been running the same game for decades.
Yeah,
and considering that one of the challenges they have to grapple with is that they, as a player, are changing arguably as much or more than their characters.
Yeah, depends on what. Any phase of life, if you're playing in decades long, unless, well, hopefully, if you're just the same person you were 20 years ago, then that's not. A good sign,
I mean, I think so. I think it's something that's certainly worth acknowledging. And as I'm thinking about it now, it's compounding in my mind when I'm thinking about if the entire time we've been at the table, I've been running one character instead of all the NPCs. And
so you just get to kill off your characters that you're sick of playing.
Yeah, when I'm sick of something, I just go like, I fell off a cliff.
Oops.
It's like, wait, he was a major part. No, he fell off a cliff.
You don't tell me how my world is wrong.
But have you met Bosco over here? He's a hoot. He is a hoot. No, but it's one of those things where it really is, like I said, I mean, it bringing up the topic of character fatigue is so alien to the forever DM mind, because if anything, we'd have the opposite. We would have like character ADD, like where it's like, maybe you get tired. Maybe you were going, I wish I could just stick with, like, I love this character, but I got to say bye to him, because that's just not where the players are taking the story. That's just not.
Right. Or we love him a lot and really care about him, and you just need to mess with us a little bit.
That's true. Like you might really have really developed a strong relationship, and I go like,
time to kill it.
I'm twisting that knife. No, but it's just one of those things where I think it really, again, thinking about this topic, I was kind of going like, frankly, I don't know if I could do it. I mean, coming from, or it would tax me, I think, because I've gotten so accustomed to not having to. There are certainly times where I go like, man, I wish I could wear that skin a little longer. I really liked that NPC or so. No, that's really interesting. So, I mean, it started kind of manifesting at the table as obviously in a negative way. It's not a good thing to feel that way.
Right.
Talk with me a little bit about, because we kind of started talking about it outside of the table, and again, I really hope that, as we're having this conversation, that there are other people out there who, again, are going like, oh, maybe I need to go talk to my DM, or maybe I need to talk to my players, maybe or I mean, whatever it is they're getting out of this, because I really do. Again, the more I think about it as a DM, I'm just going like, there's got to be a lot of people who are a year and a half into a campaign and going, I'm not sure. I'm not in love with this. The passion for this
Right.
character is not there anymore. And
Right.
and I think that's, to some extent, that's going to be natural. I
Mhm.
mean, much in the same way that you hear about, I think, the DM symptom, the DM pathology for this is when you hear about the DM who's got all these cool ideas for their next campaign, and they're only halfway through this one, and it starts to fizzle because the DM's thinking
Yep.
more about that next campaign than they are. You hear about that on occasion, and I think that's the closest relationship that we
Yeah.
have. Is kind of courting the next beautiful campaign,
Right.
when we've got a stout workhorse right here at our own table.
Right.
who-
Roxfall, everyone does.
But so talk a little bit about. I'd be really curious to hear. Like I said, I was there, obviously, for a lot of the conversation, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, kind of the process of moving through both away from the table and at the table, and then I think we can kind of round into what I feel. And again, I'm very curious to hear from the horse's mouth what I feel, at least over the last, say, 2 sessions, has really felt like Kel has begun to realign himself in the direction that Josh now wants. Not Josh 4 years ago wanted.
Right.
And so talk with me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Trying to think. The first thing I like, again, it's a matter of like identifying why you're unhappy. I think is such a huge first step, because for the longest I was like, well, it's there in every campaign. There are highs and lows. It doesn't so when is it that a low is to a point where like, okay, this is a low that needs to be addressed, and that's a hard thing to figure out. And for me, it was when I was like, I'd just rather not play D&D.
Right.
Like I'd rather not.
Rather just hang out, have a beer.
I'd rather just, which again, I can actually, there's, But once I saw that, it's okay. So why, and it was the realization that just, I think I've hinted at this so many times during this episode, is just how I am a different person than I was 2 years ago. And trying to force and Kel hasn't really changed. Well, he's changed, but not as I, as a human being, have changed.
Right.
And for me, I don't like. I know some people who sit at the table get into like stepping outside themselves, putting on a separate skin, and that's what they enjoy. I enjoy that to a degree, but it's more like Kel's a reflection of me, and I don't like. Trying to force Kel to be someone I don't want to be was not fun. Like that was not enjoyable. So to put in context, Kel was starting to take on a lot more responsibilities. He was becoming the Eastern Guard commander person. And
names.
I know.
That's the real BBEG of the campaign.
For me, it is
names
and events.
You do realize you're going to get to like the final
name. What is my name, and I will die.
Yep. And it's just going to be
Buttercup.
like, it's going to be like you're going to have to give 3 accurate names in a row,
right?
Or the whole everything ends.
And then everything ends, man. This is my brain does not work in that way. But speaking of which, where was I?
Well, no, just talking about that pivot, and Kel was taking on all of these responsibilities.
And it was what's other people at the game do enjoy that. Other people at our table, Amanda loves that stuff. That's why she sits down at the table.
Right.
And so I was trying to match that energy, and I could for a while.
Right.
And but after a while, I was like, this isn't my energy, and I don't have the energy to give to match yours.
Right.
And it was just like, I have to I got to a point where I was like, I'm retconning. I don't care anymore. I'm making a drastic change, and this is just how it is now.
Yeah.
I don't think I quite went that route. I think I did make it sense and somewhat.
I know. I thought, like I said, I think part of the reason I think this is such a great conversation is because I think with a tremendous amount of respect to the rest of the table, to me, to the whole thing, I think it was a textbook. It was a playbook for how to right that ship.
Yeah.
And so I think again, as we get to the solution, I think
You're very kind. I know I messed up a little bit, but we can. Well, I don't want to. I'm not going to empty out all my skeletons in this here. But yeah. So once I recognized it, I started taking active steps to make it so I could enjoy the game. And I'm not there yet. I'm still figuring it out. Like we've had 2 sessions, and I'm trying to re-course align. Honestly, most of the last 2 sessions, I feel for me was just like, how do I damage control? Like, how do I make sense of all the craziness that's going on? Right. And I'm hoping as we go forward, it's starting to feel like I can be the Kel that I want to be.
Right. And the thing, and tell me if this correlates, because you said 2 things that, and I think the way they lay over one another is super telling about your experiences. You were saying there used to be a time where away from the table, you're thinking about Kel, you're thinking about his motivations, you're thinking about, and then I'm going to guess maybe having a kid has something to do with it.
Yeah, when I say major life change, becoming a father was what I was
That's certainly, well, that's certainly one of them. I'm sure there's
there's other things, of course.
But precisely when the campaign and who Kel had become was demanding that you have the most outside of the game headspace is when you had the least to give.
Right.
And that lineup, obviously manifested in you going, and this is what I will really commend is I think that 100%, if you had come to me, and I think we even had this conversation, I just said, dude, if you want to, at some point I think you had said, I think I need to take a different tact. Like this is, and I think we were talking a little bit about a number of avenues, and one of those avenues was more or less, if you just want to throw a switch, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I don't want you to be miserable at the table. That's, it's not worth any amount of continuity.
Yeah, and that's what I was at. It was like, hey, I'm just not enjoying this anymore. This and my hot takes. D&D is a game, so if the game isn't fun, we are human beings. We can flip a switch. If I decide not to go that route, and I'm kind of glad I did. I think it would have, because the problem with that route with our table is it would have been very jarring for the story and for both Ariel and Amanda. It just would, I think, ruffle them the wrong way. I think they'd be very kind. I don't think they'd ever say anything, but I think it would have hurt their enjoyment at the table.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, I guess I hadn't considered that. I'd have to think on that before I commented, but let me digest that a little bit. But I will say that I think that the way in which you handled it and kind of deciding the beauty really is I think to some extent there's as much continuity in Kel, the 6 intelligence, tortured
Thank God
soldier.
for that
who,
6 intelligence. It saved my butt so many times.
But it really is one of these things where I don't know that I ever got the impression that was the hero that Kel was. Mm-hmm. He even in your backstory, I mean, while you had men underneath you who were serving underneath you, you were in the trenches with them. You were never a commander. Right. You were, and I think you preferred it that way. And I think in many regards, it's the story that has emerged from you finding yourself in that place of discomfort and choosing to be very deliberate in changing it is a story that is as believable as any protagonist's arc can be, in the sense that people take the wrong turn all the time. People take on responsibilities that they don't really want. People take on, all of these things. And I think that, this is something we touched on, and I can't remember which episode it was that we touched on, but kind of, and to some extent, I think it was echoing a little bit of what we were experiencing. But this idea of how fertile that ground is from an RP standpoint, and from to be able to in game just go, this is not the person I want to be. Like whether you're a paladin who's got the weight of the realm on your shoulders, and all you really want to do is be a frontline
I want to be
infantryman, or if you're stockbroker who hasn't seen his wife and kids in 3 months because he's at the office 20, all the time. People stop and go, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here? And that is such a relatable place to be.
Yeah.
And I think that specifically going into, if you're okay to start pivoting into
I think
how this resolved, I know, and again, I really want to hear what you felt your experience was, but specifically the last session, there was a very sincere exchange. And what kind of was the catalyst for a lot of this was a pretty tense exchange between Kel and Katarina. And interestingly, it was a tense exchange between their characters, but it really was, it was really the tension between exactly what Amanda gets out of the game and exactly what you were trying to stop getting out of the game. You know, like it really was this manifestation of you didn't want the responsibility and bandwidth that had fallen onto Kel, or at least that had been adopted by.
Right.
And so, but the last session that we ran, there was a very sincere exchange where you guys were kind of hashing out all sorts of things. And I think it's the first time that Kel, or that you as Kel, explicitly acknowledged, like, this is not the person I dreamed I would be. This is not, and like I said, I think we don't have the luxury of having Amanda and Ariel here, but I think everyone at the table was acknowledging the weight of Kel saying out loud what Josh had been feeling, for however many sessions. So, but I'd be really curious to hear, how did you feel about, the way that's turned? I don't want to call it a resolution proper, because like you said, I think
I'm still,
you're still moving through that space. But broadly speaking, if I were to point at, like, that's how you address an issue you have at the table. We talked about it outside of the table. We came together as an entire, you and I talked about it. We came together as an entire table. We weren't finding the resolution we were looking for. But through that process, had some conversations, and then you kind of said, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. And then you started executing on it. And it feels to me like that has already been a very successful correction.
I feel so.
But what has that experience been? And am I way off base? For you, did it feel like, did that moment carry the same weight for you as the first person? As, like, I know, because when Ariel was sitting there, we were sharing a look about, like, he's saying it, he's doing it. So I'm curious from the horse's mouth what that was, what that felt like.
I don't know. Have you? I'm sure you have. Everyone has. You've been in a relationship with a person, and then you break up with that person, and you look back on it, kind of a thing. You're like, wow, that's where I was. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. I certainly are. When you say that's where I was, is that a negative or is that a positive?
Negative.
Oh,
so,
okay.
like,
yes,
I've turned into a person, and that's not true, because I truly was enjoying the learning because Amanda is so good at that stuff, the narrative and really character development, all that stuff. And I was really, there was a time where I really was enjoying that, truly. But again, it faded, and as it was like, it's looking back, it's like, well, I was trying to be someone I wasn't, and whenever you do that as a human being, it never goes well, unless you're a murderer. Then you should probably not be who you are naturally. Like, if you're just like sticking in people's houses and killing them, that's not good. But that's a random tangent. But
I take your point that I think you can never fool yourself into being someone you're not. Right. And it is a terrible feeling to know when you're not, to know when you have not stuck to your principles, to know when you have not, it's because, again, no one else knows but you you'll always know. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's one of the, So
I'm kind of maybe making more of a grandiose statement.
But I get your point 100%.
So yeah, that kind of happened, but it's also this is also something that we maybe hinted on in previous episodes. Like when do you walk from the table? Right? So why did I not walk from the table? Well, honestly, it's because we're really good friends. How awkward would I have made our friend group if I was like, you know what?
These episodes would have gotten a little bit weird.
Yeah, split screen would have been a little weird. But like, if I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I played with the idea of like proposing to the group, hey, can we take a hiatus, a 2-month, like just to clear our heads, you know?
Which is not a unreasonable ask. I don't think, generally speaking.
Well, I think the reason why that might have been because I think I was the only one going through this. So I don't know if that would have been fair to ask at the table.
Again, I think it's a reasonable ask.
Yeah.
I think it's also a reasonable. It would be reasonable. Like if you had asked that, I think I probably would have explored with you. Like, is this like, hey, you just need an outright hiatus, or you need a hiatus from this character, this story,
right?
Or is it is it a game thing?
Right.
Is it a character thing? Is it
Right.
but it would have started the dialogue. That's
Right.
the important thing.
Yeah, and we could have written like Kel took a vacation in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
You know,
Come back looking like the genie at the end of Aladdin.
the cartoon,
Yeah.
like with the
you know
the goofy hat.
Yes. Thank you. I know everyone at home was catching that reference.
We have kids.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie so many times.
I literally have watched that movie so many times just recently. They don't even like it that much, but they make me put it on regardless.
Fair enough.
They can sense that I'm done watching.
So they're like, let's torture daddy. But so we could have explored that. But I want to, again, it's just because it's kind of weird to say that D&D is a part of our life. It kind of is.
Well, to some extent, I think it is. I mean,
so
as much as we continue to choose to make it that
right,
way.
yes.
Certainly.
So like, here's a question that might be really. So actually, this is flipping it on its head. You are a DM who your player character is coming to you, telling you, like, if I was to say, like, hey man, I need a hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
How would you take that? Would you take it personally? How would?
I mean, again, I think I would take it as it is the catalyst for a bigger conversation. It has to be. I mean, it's either that. It's either you say, hey, I want to take a hiatus. Now, if every player came and said, hey, I want to take a hiatus, I mean, I can't do anything to make them not do. I mean, that's, in many regards, it's like being in the game. I mean, you guys, you got 4 hands on the reins and I've got 1. Now I'll say I've got a lot of tricks in my bag to try and like manifest something reasonable out of shenanigans. But, in the real world, if the whole table said, hey, we want to take a hiatus, I mean, right immediately, I don't think the right answer. The only wrong answer is to just go like, okay, and that'd be it. That'd be the end of it.
Don't explore it.
Yeah, because like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you want to still play D&D but just not this campaign?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to keep playing this campaign but not just but give it a couple months? Do you want to? Are you just tired of playing TTRPGs altogether? Are you tired of playing D&D altogether? I mean, that could be, and that answer might be different for every single person at the table.
100%.
I would say that there's probably a more systemic issue if the entire table
Right.
is saying, I want to take a break.
Right, which I think I'm the only one who has.
Yeah, I mean, but if one person is, again, 100%, if you had come to me and said, hey man, what would you think if we took a break?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like, well, let's talk. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And again, if at the end of that conversation, it was like, no, there isn't an alternative remedy to this.
Yeah.
Then that's exactly what we should do. I will say, if I'm running a table for 6 people and one of those 6 says, hey, I want to take a break, that doesn't mean that I'm going to just slam the brakes on. I might go like, hey, well, how do you feel about, you and I can work out a way that we're going to write you out of the story. You can take all the time you need. And at any point, I'm happy to bring you right back in. Yep. I think, there's so many ways you can handle it, but I think the worst way you can handle it is, as a DM, is to get butthurt, like it's a personal attack, and go like, okay, whatever. And
Well,
then because
yeah.
you've learned nothing about the motive. I mean, it's exactly like when they're sitting at the table. I want to know what is going through your head so that I can try and work with that.
Right,
And
right.
if I can't do that away from the table, if I
Mhm.
or if I just immediately go like, you know, I will pound sand and, you know, like whatever, the
Yeah.
rest of us will play,
Right.
you know.
Sorry, you can't
What,
handle
wanna
my
fight-
genius.
You want to fight about it?
Yeah.
You know, so I would say at any point, if anyone is expressing exactly kind of the arc that you've recently gone through, you know, like you're in very fertile ground, even if it doesn't manifest in anything meaningful. To, as a DM, keep building that tool set.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's coming to you with, I guess, effectively a complaint, but you
Yeah.
know, but it might also just be my life got way more busy than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
If that's all, I mean, if that's what they're telling you, what are you going to say? Like, well, you know,
Got to quit your job, man.
yeah. I mean, it's like if you know, but if they're coming to you and saying this particular thing about this particular game, I'm just not into it, you know,
Yeah.
anymore. Well, then the question is, well, is that something that can be changed?
Right.
Is that something that can be? And if the answer to that is no, then maybe it's time to go your separate ways. But there's a lot of tools that don't have to do with running the game that should go into the DM tool bag, as far as I'm concerned. And some of that is table management, and I would say this easily falls into
this is huge
that category.
And I was just thinking, because like how the player character approaches the DM or the table is really very fragile. So if, for example, if I were to come and be like, hey guys, I am sick of this narrative-based D&D, this 5e space. I'm done. I want to go back to the 4e mentality of playing. Oh god, I thought I was gonna make it out of one video without saying something that's gonna get me absolutely roasted alive in the comment section. But you know, I miss those times, and you know what, you guys, I'm just done. The way you play this game is just, I'm sick of it. The way you enjoy the game, like I kind of did that a little bit, because when me and Amanda would kind of had that, she kept playing the game, and kind of like I tried to match her energy again. I just could not do it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of manifested at the table, and I apologized to her later for it.
Right.
But
well, again, I think all of that, like I said, literally every step, I think, broadly speaking, was what I couldn't ask for more from players at my table who, you know, again, have come up against something where they're going, you know, I need to do something here. Something has to change, whether it's with the game, whether it's with me, whether it's with the DM, whatever it is. And, you know, all you can ask is that whether your players are having a great time or a miserable time, that they communicate that respectfully. And I think the vast majority of people, DM or player, if someone is willing to approach them respectfully, are going to do what they can to try and resolve the situation. Anyway, you know, I'm sure there's people out there going like, not my players or not my DM. But and you know,
horrible people
they're out there.
Absolutely.
But you know, I think that the process that we moved through, and the fact that, like I said, I was really good because you know, there was some part of me that was going like, this may not be writable. You know,
I had that thought many a time.
Amidst your best efforts, it might be a deal where we just go like, well, and because then again, the question then falls to like, if this is not writable, do you think that is there another character that changes the game? Like that suddenly now everything's cool? Is it truly a character fatigue thing? Or is it some, you know, again, it's time to start exploring those potential solutions. And but like I said, I'm really glad that we are in a space where it feels like we're on the heading.
Right, I was about to say, it's not like all of a sudden everything's hunky dory. I voiced my things. It's going to be a process.
Right.
We're going through a healing process. But wow. So yeah, have I changed? I've like even our one shot that we're doing with Larif, or my drow guy. Hey, I remember the name right. Holy crap! Is it Larif?
It is Larif.
Holy cow! But I did not come up with anything with that guy. I'm just running him off the cuff completely. No voice. Just like, okay, I'm gonna do it like this. And It's been
Well,
fun.
and that's what, I hope, like I said, part of my goal in introducing that was to just let you guys approach it in whatever way you felt like. That might be exactly the way you approach the Rovers campaign. It might be the total opposite. Whatever,
Right.
hopefully, whatever people need to, I think with
Right,
any campaign to vent. There's the things you love, there's the things you don't love,
Right.
and if you give someone an opportunity to tweak in, very rapid time,
Yep.
how they're engaging with the game and with the world.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's it's an experiment anyways. We're just literally just
Right.
starting that process.
And that's actually maybe a really good test. I don't know if test is the right word, but throw out a one shot. If you're starting to feel something, throw out a one shot and be like, oh, when I played this character, like I missed this in my current character. Then you can maybe start to identify what has happened with your character.
100%.
All right, man.
You got anything else? I think, like I said, I think this one was really pertinent to our own recent experiences in our own campaign. But like I said, I do think that, and I'd love to hear down in the comments what people's experience has been with character fatigue. And I would also be really curious to hear how does this translate to both sides of the new school, old school divide? Because obviously, there's plenty of old school campaigns that are really long form, but I do think the nature of let's call it the modern ethos versus the old school ethos. There's a bit of a different relationship between, not always, but there certainly can be, between the player and the character. So I guess I'm pushing this out to all of you old school cats out there. What has your experience been in the scope of character fatigue, if such a thing is existing at your tables? Again, a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts, questions, anything you want to see down in the comments?
No. I guess just help each other out if you are going through character fatigue, and if you throw out something out there, maybe be super supportive and just be really kind, because this is a hobby that you become very attached to this hobby, and it can be a very difficult thing when you're not aligned with your hobby.
Yeah.
And so
100%. 100%. Got anything else?
Nope.
In that case, for all of you out there who are loving every single moment at your tables, or for those of you who maybe are struggling a little bit, trying to find the trajectory that is going to reignite the passion for you and your character, keep on trucking, keep that communication up. Until we see you next time, the world is yours.